Baltimore looks completely different this morning after what out-left rioters did there overnight. Over the last several decades the younger generation has been indoctrinated to despise America and everything it stands for. Instead of the youth being taught actual history, they have been given the watered-down politically correct version that is based more on feeling than fact. So, it should come as no surprise to anyone that we are seeing millennials reacting violently to Civil War monuments. Whether you agree with the South's right to secede or not, these statues represent our nation's history that should never be forgotten or erased. However, these vile leftist groups want to purge our nation of these statues, which is what the city of Baltimore just allowed under the cloak of darkness. The left has made their intentions clear that they want to destroy America, and the best way to do that is from the inside. These America-hating liberals knew that all they needed to do was to indoctrinate one generation to hate the United States and everything it stood for. They quickly infiltrated our public schools and they rewrote history in order to reflect their sick agenda. These leftists then were able to easily brainwash the youth into hating America and everything associated with it, but that is not all they have done. Sadly, these hateful people have also taught these impressionable young minds to despise white people and themselves. Now, we are seeing the fruits of a generation lost and they are out of control. They are now members of violent hate groups such as Antifa and Black Lives Matter, and they just getting started with their destruction. They have set their sights on the removal of all Civil War monuments and statues around the country, claiming that they are racist and promote white supremacy. Instead of politicians and government officials telling these hateful groups to back down and respect history, they are indulging their erratic behavior. City by city in different states around the country are caving to these insane demands and removing pieces of American history. Now, Baltimore has joined in the erasing of history by removing Confederate statues in the middle of the night. Here is more from Milo Yiannopoulos. Under orders from Baltimore Mayor Catherine Pugh, Confederate statues were torn down across the city under the cover of darkness. Soon after midnight on Wednesday, crews, which included a large crane and a group of police officers, began tearing down Confederate monuments in city parks and public squares before removing them from the town. The crews used heavy machinery to remove the statues from their bases before loading them onto flatbed trucks. The New York Times reports that small crowds were gathered at the monuments, not to protest, but to celebrate. Baynard Woods, the editor-at-large of the Baltimore City paper, used Twitter to document the removals and the mood surrounding them. The police are being cheerful and encouraging people to take photos and selfies, Woods said in an interview with the New York Times. The mayor of Baltimore, Catherine Pugh, ordered the monuments be taken down after a vote by the city council on Monday. "It's done," she said on Wednesday morning. "They needed to come down. My concern is for the safety and security of our people. We moved as quickly as we could." Pugh said she personally watched the removal of the statues. The overnight operation was designed to avoid violent conflicts like Charlottesville, the Baltimore Sun reports. "I did not want to endanger people in my own city," Pugh said. "I had begun discussions with contractors and so forth about how long it would take to remove them. I am a responsible person, so we moved as quickly as we could." 4 monuments had been removed by 3:30 a.m. Among the monuments removed were the Robert E. Lee and Thomas J. Stonewall Jackson Monument, a double equestrian statue of the Confederate generals erected in 1948, the Confederate Soldiers and Sailors Monument, erected in 1903, and the Roger B. Taney Monument, erected in 1887. The 4th statue was the Confederate Women's Monument, which was unceremoniously removed from its pedestal. A Twitter user called James MacArthur live-streamed the removal of the Lee and Jackson Monument. According to photographer Derek Bowden, the city's decision was correct, but it takes more to defeat racism and white privilege than the removal of statues. "It's major in its own right, but it's small when it comes to the bigger battle," said Bowden. "It's a bigger battle. This is a small victory. There's a larger issue we have to look at, with being Americans and upholding the Constitution, to protect all people." Residents then proceeded to deface the monument, as well as celebrate on the pedestal. This is absolutely disgusting for anyone that understands history or have any respect for it at all. This war was the bloodiest our country had ever seen, that pitted brother against brother, family against family, and friend against friend. Sound familiar? During the Battle of Gettysburg, the ground was soaked with blood from American citizens who were fighting for what they believed in. Now, of course, we could get into a discussion of the real reasons behind the war, but we will save that for another day. Let's just agree at this point that these people deserve to have their memory honored and not forgotten. The important part to remember here is that if we erase our history, we are doomed to repeat it again. These violent groups in their lack of wisdom are being blinded by hate and do not see the ramifications of their actions. What is next on their bleaching of history parade? Are they going to demand that George Washington monuments are removed, or how about the American flag? They won't stop now that they have been given an inch, and who knows where it will end.